If you've been hanging on every whisper about a next-gen Apple TV 4K dropping any moment, pump the brakes. The internet has spent all year promising launch windows that slid from the iPhone event to October to November, and here we are, still waiting. Leaks move goalposts. Reality doesn't. Today, I'm pushing back on the hype and laying out what's actually believable about the rumored Apple TV 4K. The A17 Pro chipset, AA Gaming, and Apple Intelligence. Let's get into it. You heard the headlines. A refreshed Apple TV 4K is right around the corner, packed with an A17 Pro. Console quality, gaming, in-house wireless parts, and a showcase for Apple's new Siri and Apple Intelligence in 2026. Reports from places like Bloomberg and MacRumors have amplified the chatter. But here's the problem. When you look at Apple's history, the business incentives, and the hardware realities, a lot of these claims don't add up, at least not the way they're being sold. First, Apple's track record with Apple TV doesn't match the hype cycle. This product is a quiet workhorse, not a keynote headliner. Apple updated in 2017, 2021, and 2022, and when it does, it almost always uses a proven iPhone chip from a prior generation. In 2022, it was the A15 Bionic, not the newest, not Pro, but plenty fast for tvOS. The company focuses on stability, cost, and ecosystem fit, not bleeding-edge specs that inflate the bill of materials. That brings us to the A17 Pro rumor. Could Apple ship it in an Apple TV? Technically, sure. Should you expect it? Not so fast. A Pro chip would raise component costs without unlocking mass market benefits for a streaming box. Apple TV is already overkill for Netflix, YouTube, and Apple TV Plus at 4K HDR. The A17 Pro's ray tracing and console-style GPU are impressive. But Apple has historically saved its most expensive silicon for iPhone Pro and Max, not the living room. A more realistic play would be in a 16 or at most, a non-Pro A17, giving Apple headroom for years without spiking the price. But what about a gaming? That's the sizzle pitch. Assassin's Creed tier titles running natively, no cloud needed. Yes, Apple's newer iPhone chips can run credible ports of big games. But translating that into a living room console experience is a different beast. Here's why the AA dream is being oversold. Thermals and power. Apple TV is passively cooled. It has more airflow than a phone, but not remotely the thermal budget of a console or gaming PC. Expect 1080p to 1440p-ish targets with upscaling, not native 4060 with ray tracing. Storage realities. Even a 128 gigabytes Apple TV runs out of room fast, when modern games regularly weigh tens of gigabytes. Without expandable storage or a new content model, console-sized libraries don't fit comfortably. Developer incentives. Porting AA games to tvOS takes time and money. The Apple TV install base is tiny compared to consoles and PCs, and even compared to iPhone. Studios will follow revenue, not rumors. The real gaming strategy. Apple has already loosened rules around cloud gaming on its platforms. If a really comes to the Apple TV in a big way, streaming apps from major services are the low-friction path, not massive native downloads. And about controllers, Bluetooth gamepad support isn't new. DualSense and Xbox controllers have worked with Apple TV for years. It's great, but it doesn't signal a sudden pivot to a domination. It simply makes casual and mid-core gaming more comfortable, especially for Apple Arcade, which remains the platform's primary native gaming story right now. Now let's talk Apple Intelligence. Will a future Apple TV showcase the new Siri and on-device AI features arriving across Apple's lineup? Possibly in part, but don't expect the full iPhone Mac experience. Apple Intelligence is an evolving stack with both on-device and server-based components. On a TV box, the win isn't text generation or document rewriting. It's smarter universal search, better recommendations, contextual controls, and voice interactions. That understand, play the episode My Partner. Pause last night, or find the quietest scene to test my speakers. That's useful, but it doesn't require a premium Pro-class chip to be transformative in the living room. Apple can gate features, lean on the cloud, and roll capabilities out over time without forcing Apple TV into a 17 Pro territory. In-house wireless components is another buzzline to treat with caution. Apple is steadily reducing dependency on third-party silicon, but brand new UI fully Bluetooth stacks are mission-critical and notoriously hard to nail in version 1. Would Apple experiment in a lower-volume product like Apple TV before pushing to iPhone? Maybe. But if there's any risk to connectivity or interoperability, Apple will favor reliability over novelty. Expect incremental upgrades, Wi-Fi 6E or newer. A Bluetooth bump, not a moonshot that jeopardizes living room stability. Timing is the last big myth. Spring launches make for great thumbnails, but historically, Apple TV updates land quietly in the fall. Could Apple slip it into early 2026 to align with Siri's broader rollout? Sure. Should you circle a date based on anonymous posts? Absolutely not. The only reliable timeline is the one Apple announces. So what should you actually expect from the next Apple TV 4K? A sensible chip bump, a 16 or similar performance tier that's faster, more efficient, and cheaper to produce at scale than in a 17 Pro smarter. Steadier tvOS, better universal search, tighter user profiles, cleaner handoff with iPhone, and more thoughtful Siri behaviors, not a C5A. Leap on day 1. Wireless that just works. Wi-Fi 6E or newer and modern Bluetooth. With any in-house silicon quietly validated behind the scenes before, Apple bets the product on it. Price discipline. Apple will try to keep the price in the familiar competitive range. A flashy, expensive chip fights that goal. A gaming story grounded in reality. Apple Arcade continues. Cloud gaming becomes a bigger part of the pitch as policy changes propagate and big services lean in. Native AAA remains a showcase exception, not the rule. Small but meaningful hardware tweaks, remote refinements, perhaps Ethernet on a higher capacity model, sustained HDR performance, and continued support for smart home standards that make the Apple TV a reliable home hub. Should you wait to upgrade? If your current Apple TV 4K 2022 is humming along, there's no urgent reason to hold your breath or panic buy. It already handles 4K HDR, Atmos, fast navigation, and the best streaming apps with ease. If you need a streaming device today, buy with confidence. If you're chasing console-level gaming, get a console or plan on cloud services. If you're banking on Apple Intelligence to reinvent the TV experience overnight, temper expectations. This will be a steady evolution, not a single AI drop that changes everything. Leakers love certainty. Apple doesn't, until an event slide says otherwise. The most likely future is the boring one, a thoughtfully faster Apple TV with smarter software, better wireless, and a price that keeps it competitive. That's not clicky, but it is exactly how Apple has treated this product for years. So here's my promise. I'll get excited when Apple makes it real. Until then, I'm done letting leaks write the narrative, and you should be too.